What's going on, everybody? This is John J Gaming on the mic here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the Realignment Dynasty here on NCAA 14, featuring that college football revamp, of course. And we are out here, man. We are here. We just finished our very first season, and honestly, it was a really nice season for us, man. We finished 9-4, so it's going to be a really good matchup to see what ends up happening and see how we try to improve on that. So it should be a good one. Make sure you go ahead, smash that like button, hit subscribe as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. And we'll go ahead and jump right into it, man, starting with how this season went out. I mean, we started off really strong. We did end up losing to Michigan, not once, but twice. So Michigan actually accounted for 2 of our 4 losses, but after the Michigan loss, we go on a tear. We beat Southern Miss, who ends up being, a team that was ranked in the top 25 at some point. Beat the Raging Cajuns, beat South Alabama in our rivalry game. Do the same to both Boise State, Eastern Michigan, and Western Kentucky. But then we stopped dominating teams towards the end. That was when all of our home games happened. Then the remaining games that we had were either on the road or neutral sites games, and we struggled a little bit more, barely beating Western Kentucky. We end up losing to Stanford on the road, and then doing the same to Iowa, although we do put up a good fight, and they do make it to the national championship game as the 8th seed, so not really concerned about that before we wrap things up in the Armed Forces Bowl. Unfortunately, getting blown out, so that's where we are, 9-4 being our record. Definitely thinking about staying around a second year just to see if we can end up being a team that makes it as a double-digit win squad. But before I jump into the rest of this offseason, want to take a look and see, what kind of All-Americans that we had, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And surprisingly, no love for the first-team All-Americans, as we are essentially left off this list, although I do think we did have a few guys on the defensive side of football, 3 guys for Troy that did get named first-team All-American. Jason Henley in particular, he's going to come back next season. Reggie Smith and Brian Tucker are going to graduate. We'll see if we get anybody on the second-team squad, and it looks like we did not have any second-team All-Americans on the offensive side of the football either, although we do end up seeing one of your customs from the previous series, Kevon Doman, ends up receiving second-team All-American honors. The Syracuse linebacker could be a late-round draft pick. Definitely needs to be considered, especially after the great game that he had in the bowl season up against Bowling Green to end his collegiate career. But Brandon Walker, corner for Arkansas State, that's one of Nick Gunner's guys. He does make the All-American list as well. He's a second-team All-American, but he is going to graduate. Now, as for the All-Independents, now keep in mind there was roughly 8 teams that ended up being independents in this series. And we dominate, man. First team, guys like Ryan Fisher, Travis Setzer are on this list. Kendavius Richardson, that's a custom, by the way. He's a first team, along with Travis Sanders. That's, I believe, our number 3 wide receiver. He will at least be coming back. It will be our number 1. And so is most of our offensive line. Alex Martin, Michael Sears, who's going to graduate, and so is Jacob Brown. So 3 of our 5 offensive linemen going to be on that first team list. Now for the second team, all independents, not as many guys on the second team, but Dejon McDaniels is here as well. You could interchange Dejon McDaniels with the other receiver, Travis Sanders. It's like 1A, 1B kind of thing, but great job and a great season by Dejon McDaniels. Could be very well an NFL prospect. Zach Week may not be an NFL prospect, but he does make the All-Independents list as well. He is a second-teamer in this regard. Solid year, 880 yards, 5 touchdowns. So we do get offered a contract extension just because of the great work that we did end up doing. I mean, we did improve our win-loss total. We were hired on after an 8-6 season. We're now 9-4, no bowl game victory to show for it. I want to see if we can get that 10-win season, so I do want to stick around here in Troy just to see what happens. However, I'm not going to accept the extension right away because I do want to see if the Troy head coaching spot opens up. If it does, then we will take over as the head coach of Troy. Otherwise, we will remain as the offensive coordinator of the Trojans. Now, Coach Justin Jones actually was fired from Hawaii after his team did go 1-11. So he is going to be also in need of a new offer and might have found something here, man. Actually, a pretty solid deal. Going down to the University of Central Florida, they have been a really good program over the years. And, you know, going to get a 4-year contract, you know, going to a solid program in order to go ahead and find his footing. You know, wish him the best of luck, you know, in the Deep South Conference. But UCF is pretty solid. Just the only caveat is that he can't control recruiting while he is at Central Florida. So we'll see if he uses this as an opportunity to remain, to at least get him back into the head coaching ranks eventually. Now, getting into one of the more difficult parts of the offseason, we got to, you know, say goodbye to some players. Now, for our 2 receivers, Dejon McDaniels and Kadavius Richardson, both custom guys, they are projected to go to the NFL as 5th and 6th round picks respectfully, but we are planning on losing another wide receiver. Quentin McKinley, 69 overall guy, did not see the field at all over the course of the season, although he was going to get more playing time next year. He wants to transfer to Florida Atlantic. Now, we will try our best to bring him back. He's asking for another car. We're going to try to see if we can bring that car back, but the car is not enough, or the promises that we made for him on the field. So he is going to fulfill his destiny of going to the University of Florida International in pursuit of more playing time. As for head coach Nick Gunner, though, Nick Gunner is able to get somebody into the NFL in his first year. Brian Sullivan, the 5'11", 200 prospect from Hereford, Texas, he's projected to go into the 3rd round, and that was despite the fact that he did not have as good of a season as he did last year. Less receptions, less yards, less touchdowns across the board, but he is still going to be a 3rd round player, someone that will get drafted in day 2, and that would be a nice boost for this Arkansas State program that didn't have really anyone else that was considered a pro prospect. As for UCF, the new landing spot for Justin Jones, he's going to be without a defense that had Mark Davis on it. And Mark Davis, despite the fact that he's only an 87 overall, he's actually projected to go in the 2nd round. Now, I'm not sure if it was just because, you know, he ended up testing really well in the NFL Combine or what ended up happening, because, you know, he doesn't have like any really elite traits besides maybe being able to pursue the ball really well, as well as his press coverage. But yeah, he doesn't do anything like that great. So I'm actually really surprised that he's a 2nd round prospect for the NFL draft. Another NFL player for UCF is Mark Rhodes, the kicker from Winter Haven, Florida. He's projected to go into the 7th round. He has an absolute missile of a leg. He has 99 kick power, 94 kick accuracy as well. So a couple of pro prospects here at the University of Central Florida as well. But with that being said, we move on over to signing day. And since we are still just a coordinator and not the head coach, this is the recruiting class that our head coach was able to put together over the course of the season. And to be honest with you, other than the this Antoine Ostrander as well as Will Frazier, we really did not get very many people in this recruiting class that are going to be impact guys. A lot of these guys right here that are on the roster, I'm thinking they're going to have to be redshirted, especially these guys towards the bottom, like a Brock Bush, Chris Johnson, Nick Logan, Craig Mackey as well. And that's if they even make the team, right? Because that's obviously, no guarantee either. And that being said, we also didn't get a fullback, so we might need to move one of these tight ends over to that fullback position so that we don't have a lock-on going into the season. But despite that, our recruiting class is gonna sit at just about in the middle. We end up with the 56th ranked recruiting class. We did sign 2 4-star guys. Frazier, which I talked about, is probably the best player in this class. And then we also got Fitzpatrick, which isn't at least a 70 overall, which is disappointing, but he is still a 4-star player, so that brings a little bit more visibility to our program. Nice to be able to bring in multiple 4-star guys, despite, not being that high profile of a program. Even with the improvements that we made, we're still only a 3-star school going into this season. But University of Southern Florida, though, they did a fantastic job. Justin Jones gonna have some talent to work with. 2 5-star guys in Washington and Bryant, as well as Parham also for that offensive line. So University of Central Florida, they're going to be able to compete for a while. We'll see what they end up doing this upcoming season and how they end up competing. But I like the recruiting class that University of Central Florida was able to put together, and that'll be nice to help provide that little springboard for Coach Jones in his stint in Central Florida. See if he can use that as an opportunity to get back into the head coaching ranks. And then as for head coach Nick Gunner, he ends up putting together the 75th ranked recruiting class. In that lower middle class in terms of recruiting classes, it is being elevated by Carlos Smith, one of the best running backs in high school football. He ends up signing with the Red Wolves, but other than that, a bunch of 3-star guys that Arkansas State does end up securing. But going into the end of the recruiting period, there was still a few of your guys' custom players that did not end up signing originally, but many of those battles have been sorted out. Wayne Barkley, a 4-star from Panatuma, California. He was in a recruiting battle. It was between the Wisconsin Badgers and the Miami Redhawks out in Oxford, Ohio. And Wisconsin does end up winning out. They do end up getting a very good linebacker who is considered number 25 in their recruiting class. Meanwhile, the quarterback, Nathan Games, decided where he wanted to go, and a little bit of a surprise. Originally, he had scholarship offers to Purdue and Akron, but Ohio State sweeps in late in the recruiting process and steals him, and that is a big pickup for the Buckeyes because Nathan Games, he's going to be paired up with another custom guy, the number 1 player in high school football, Zachary Davis. So that is a huge pickup for Ohio State. They're going to have a really 1-2 punch on the offensive side of the football that they aren't going to forget anytime soon. So a great pickup for that program, and I can't wait to see what Nathan Games is capable of. And finally, out in Canada, there were 2 customs that I still haven't decided, and one of them at least made their decision. Mohamed El Bassa, the best player in Canada, a 4-star guy from Montreal. He is actually going to trade those brutal winters that can happen in Canada, and they are going to sunny Southern Florida to play with the Miami Hurricanes. He also had a scholarship offer from Notre Dame as well, but that being said, the Miami Hurricanes, they win out and they get a quality player, the number 21 wide receiver in this recruiting class. But that being said, though, there is one player that did not end up signing. Farid Vassir, a 3-star pocket quarterback from Halifax, California. No one recruits him, so he's going to have to walk on somewhere. He wants USC to be his first choice, but we'll have to see what is around for him specifically. But that is a tough look, considering he is going to have to work extremely hard if he ever wants to start anywhere in college football. So with that being said, we get out here 2 position changes, and one of the first things that I do want to go ahead and do is I want to kick Antoine Ostrander from someone that's a tight end and move him to fullback, and he moves up +2 in that regard. So my reasoning is Tony Whitaker will probably step in as the starter, with guys like Kevin Hargrove and Chris Johnson contributing a little bit from that position, but it at least provides a backup and makes sure that we don't have anyone that isn't going to go ahead and bring a walk-on on the fullback position, someone that will have to take a spot where we necessarily don't want. Now, another change that I am going to make on the defensive side of the ball is I'm going to go ahead and take Joel Jackson, and I'm going to kick him over to the right outside linebacker position. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, just to make sure that we have like a third string guy there. He can compete with Antonio Hopkins for that backup right outside linebacker spot, with, of course, Mark Upshaw coming in as the starter in that position. So we get through the training results, though, because we didn't really have too many position changes, as y'all probably have noticed. And, like, for us specifically, man, we should be a solid little football team once again. I mean, our two highest players are 89 overalls, both on our side of the football, with Alex Martin, who's a +6, and then Steve Jordan, man, who put in some serious work over the offseason. He's a +9, so now he's a 89 overall. He jumps up from 82, so that's a huge improvement for our football team for sure. But the big question is, who is our quarterback going to be? Because we didn't see him as the backup last year. They were both seniors, the backup and the starter. It looks like Pat Henley is going to win the job. The Tarrant, Alabama guy has not, well, he's played a couple of downs. He's played back in 2019 and 2020, but did not play this past season. So he is a redshirt, does have solid mobility, but really not a lot of experience to call upon, which, not ideal, but we'll have to find a way to make it work. Hopefully he doesn't throw as many interceptions as Ryan Fisher. That was a Achilles heel of ours. James Park will be our backup, but man, if Pat Henley gets hurt, we're going to be in serious trouble. So gonna have to lean on the running game, lean on Steve Jordan, lean on these younger guys like Derek Love and Harold Ferguson to step up to the plate and bring in some high quality talent. Hopefully our head coach can do that, because our receivers are not going to be as good either. Travis Sanders will be back as a wide receiver 1, but he's not as good as Kendavis Richardson or Dejon McDaniels. And Furman Bennett and Eric Johnson, those guys, along with Sherrod Parker and Thomas Moore, they're all going to have something to prove, right? So, especially in a spread offense like one that Maurice Royal runs, that's going to be important. Now, at side end, Tony Whitaker does win the starting job out there. He's only up to a 70, though, so not quite as good as Zach Leak, but he is usable. Definitely a good athlete that we can utilize in the red zone. Offensive line, once again, might be a little bit of a question mark out on the tackles. We will have Alex Martin hold things down. Trenton Furman solid, and so is David Russell. But again, Brian Ford and Curtis Perry on the right tackle side, and then particularly Sean Williams on the left tackle side. They both have some things that they need to prove. So we look at our roster that we have right now, as we need to go ahead and cut things down to 70 players. We currently have 74 players on this roster currently, and we definitely signed some busts. Definitely got to get this bust up out of here, man. I usually like to cut from the bottom specifically, simply because these are guys that are probably not going to play or make the team for that matter, except Sean Garrison. He's gonna have to stay, unfortunately, so that's tough to see. But guys like Craig Mackey, he's probably not going to play, and neither really is Adam Brown. So that's going to be our final 70. This is what our roster is going to be going ahead and looking like this upcoming season. Got a solid football team. I don't think our offense is going to be as explosive as it was last year, so it's going to be really important that we limit our turnovers a little bit better. That way we can make sure that we can still win football games despite not having the same talent as we did this past season. But now we go ahead and jump into, now that we have the roster settled and taken care of, let's take a look and see who we plan on redshirting this upcoming season. Now, for the quarterback position, we do come in with 4 quarterbacks, and I'm going to redshirt one of them, Brock Bush, simply because I like to traditionally have at least 3 quarterbacks on the roster at all times, and Brock Bush, realistically, is just not ready. He is definitely a developmental project, someone that maybe could be a low-tier starting quarterback his senior season as a redshirt, but right now really does not serve any purpose for us. Adrian Coley heaven forbid we have to bring him in, he'll be slightly more prepared. And I do like his mobility as well. So hopefully Pat Hanley doesn't get hurt and we don't have to worry about that. Running back, we do have 5 running backs on the roster, and I'm going to redshirt Tim Fitzpatrick, Damian Ryan. They're both going to be buried on the depth chart anyways and have work that needs to be done, especially in terms of their awareness. Their awareness needs to be a lot higher before I send them on the field. At least Steve Jordan should be able to knock things down, and who knows, maybe Derek Love and Harold Ferguson can both be guys that really step up big this upcoming season. Now, as for our schedule for this upcoming season, I'm going to tell you something right now, man. Our strength of schedule is really not that bad. C-, that's not what I'm worried about. We could even go undefeated, sure, true. But, that being said, recruiting, gonna definitely be difficult, man. We only have 5 home games in the entire season. And in our first half, that's where all of our home games is going to be. We do start off Week 1, home game against Washington State. Then we'll have a quick bye week. Then we'll have 3 home games in a row. UCLA, Ball State, and Pittsburgh. Before we sprinkle in a road game against Wake Forest. And then our senior day is going to be the final home game in week number 7, where we take on Western Kentucky. We did play them last year, and we did beat them. Then after that, we go on 6 consecutive road games to end the season. On the road against Temple, but then most notably against Georgia Southern, who did make the college playoff last season, but they come in ranked number 22 in the country. So that'll be a big top 25 matchup if that holds up, and could be our biggest potential hurdle to any sort of undefeated season. We do also have road games against Memphis, San Diego State, Southern Florida, and to round out the season, playing against another independent team, we are taking on the University of Texas San Antonio, and that will round out our season here, man. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be an interesting challenge. Head coach has his work cut out for him in terms of recruiting. But speaking of recruiting, though, if you guys want to be involved in this series, whether you want to be a high school senior or a JUCO prospect, I do have a template down below that you guys can go ahead and follow if you guys want to have a custom player. And that's how you guys will be involved in the series. We'll track your recruiting through the process of the season, whether you start off as a high school guy or a JUCO. And we'll occasionally track your college career if your team, makes it to a conference championship game or a bowl game, that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, make sure you go ahead, you fill out that template down below. And with that being said, this is John J Gaming on the mic signing off, but I'm hoping you're all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody. And again, if you enjoyed, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps a brother up. But with that, I'm out.